This uranium stock might actually be a five-bagger by the time that this uranium cycle is over. Let me tell you what company it is, why I think the catalysts now are a great setup for it to go up in 2024, possibly longer, and why am I finally buying the stock after watching it for several years and not acting upon it? Why am I acting now versus what I could have done earlier? So let's take a look at Sky Harbor Resources. Okay, number one deal with Sky Harbor Resources is the team. And for this, I want to quickly highlight a couple of people on the team so that you understand the dimension of this company and why every now and again you come across a company that gets cheap, but not painfully cheap because they have such quality people on board that they can raise money fairly easily compared to others. And they, are never really in the basement sale prices that you sometimes see new companies become. And so let's take a look at what Sky Harbor has for management and board. Okay, so this is the management team and board. Jordan Trimble, super young guy, very bright, knows how to talk, and has actually been involved in a sale of a company before, which is awesome. Jim, I have met this guy before, real company builder, really cares about the quality of the business, solid guy. And here we start to see why this company has been around for so long and they've been able to hold on through thick and thin, through the deepest parts of the bear market. David Cates, no other than David Cates, CEO of Denison Mines. If you know anything about uranium, you know that Denison Mines is a stellar quality company that is never cheap enough for me to say, hey, jump in. But he is not just a director of a company, but he also is a pretty large shareholder, which for me means a lot. You want skin in the game when it comes to this. And then you have geologists with all the right names on their CVs. You have Christine McKenney with Eagle Point Uranium, JNR, and Canalaska. You also have Sean Cross, and you do a quick look here, and you look, oh, he's worked at the Aero Deposit, Next Gen, awesome. Cigar Lake, Appia Energy, Next Gen Aero Deposit, Orano's Cigar Lake. Like this is all ticking the boxes for somebody who's new to uranium and wants to bet on people that know what they're doing and know how to find the uranium in the best region to find high-grade uranium, which is the Athabasca Basin. Now, when you move down to the advisors here, you see Paul Matizik. I am never going to get tired of saying this. Maybe I'll change my mind in the future, but if there were an ETF with all of Paul Matizik's companies, I would buy it without literally even looking at what's inside. This is no joke, okay? It's, you know how some guys in the business, they would have to make an effort to lose? Paul Matizik is one of them. So whatever Paul Matizik is doing, I am going to take a look at for sure. Paul Matizik is one of those guys. Go and research the stuff that he's been into. He was one of the reasons why I bought Encore Energy very, very cheap and rode it. I don't want to say all the way up because that's not entirely true, but to a multi-bagger status. So whenever you're choosing companies, team is number one. But let's face it, the team has always been really strong. So why didn't I buy this stock, back in the days in 2017? Because I've known about Sky Harbor for several years. They've been around for a very long time. Okay, so the reason why I think Sky Harbor's time is 2024 is that they are finally onto a really large drill program, okay? You're going to see a lot of news flow come out of Sky Harbor and their partners within this drilling season. starting anytime. So they plan on drilling anything from 15 to 20,000 meters, depending on how they're able to do it up there at Russell and more. And that is going to go along with 4 to 5 other projects that their partners will be drilling throughout this, drilling season. So here's what you can expect from these 2 flagship projects. I'm going to run through them very quickly because I want to pull you back to the overview as to why I think this company is super interesting. And it's beyond just the flagship projects. I think there's value creation that is not just based on the drill bit, although the drill bit, I think, is going to be driving, Sky Harbor's, push for 2024. I think a lot of their success is going to come from these 2 main projects. So let's take a look at these 2 projects here. First of all, Russell Lake Uranium Project. So here you have a super interesting location of Russell Lake. It is right up against pretty much all the sexiest projects that are controlled by none other than Denison. So if you take a look at Denison, their size, their resources, how far along they are, they're much more advanced company, right? And then you take a look at, what they found, where they found it, and the location. And we're starting to see something very interesting here, because this is how large Russell Lake is. And it's surrounded by not only Denison, but also Orano, and another one of their projects, which is more. We're going to get into more. It's super exciting, really, really soon. Now, with Russell Lake, what you have is, yes, there has been uranium that has been found there, but it has been mostly, I want to say, point something percent uranium, okay, for a few meters. So I'm going to mention a few of the hits that they've had before. 0.7% U3O8 over 5.8 meters at a depth of 374 meters. That's not bad at all. And for instance, another hit was 3.45% U3O8, which is ultra high grade, but the length of it, or the width of it, is 0.3. So we're looking at, a depth of 360 as well. But you're looking at uranium that hasn't hit the headline grades and widths that you'd really want for this thing to start flying. This is a JV with Rio Tinto, where the actual people drilling it out are Sky Harbor, and they can earn up to 100% of it. And so they're going to be revisiting it. And really, the key to any of these Athabasca Basin plays is how well they can vector in where they're drilling, because you're talking here about massive amount of land, right? I just showed you the map. The most important thing is for the company to come together and be able to come up with drill targets that make sense. Part of it is luck, but a lot of it has to do with all the geophysics and other things that they do before drilling. They have a team that has experience, I believe, that can actually move this forward and find much higher grade uranium in Russell. But Russell is not even the sexiest of them all, because right next door to it, we have more. Let's take a look at more and the juiciness that they've been able to provide here. So if we take a look at the Moore project, which is right beside Russell Lake, you're going to see that what they've been able to find is nothing short of amazing. So let's take a look at just randomly here, 4% over 10 meters, okay? Now, let's just be honest here. In the Athabasca Basin in 2024, with uranium at $100 per pound plus by the time these results come out, if these guys can hit 10 meters of 4%, this stock is going to move. This is not financial advice. This is a partner company of mine. I own stock, so I am very biased, but This is just one of those things where you know the uranium is there, you're delineating how much more uranium is there, and you know that the grade is going to be likely very, very high. Just to give you a rough idea, if you're coming from the gold mining world, 1% uranium is something like 30 grams per ton of gold. So what we're talking about, this is silly. When we're talking about, 4% uranium, we're not talking about high grade. We're talking about ultra high grade. So think about that when it comes to, choosing the stocks and how you build your portfolio, and making sure that you do have some sort of exposure to companies that might find high grade gold. You might say, hey, but no, I own stock in Namibia and Niger in the USA. That's great. So do I. But if you miss out on the really high grade, you're going to miss all the excitement that comes with an exploration based bull market. And I believe that with the amount of companies that are drilling in the Athabasca Basin in 2024, we're going to see a lot happening, and the region as a whole is going to suck in a lot of investors because the grades are just stellar, out of this world. And so you want to get in before people actually find out how much uranium there is still to be discovered in the Athabasca Basin and at these redonkulous grades. So you also have here 5.14 over 6 meters, such a good hit. And there is more. So what's going to happen is they're going to come out and drill these two projects as their main flagship projects. That is happening very soon. But what I think is going to really make Sky Harbor a good bet this year is that not only are they in the Athabasca Basin, but their business model is just superior. Let's just face it. It just is. I wish that the companies who got all the love were development companies, because that's where I started. But the reality is that what they do is they have way too much land. Okay. They've been around for like 10 years. And so they picked up really good projects throughout the years, and they've been able to pick and choose the best ones for themselves for them to drill. And the ones that they weren't as sure about, what they did is they either have them available for JV, or they have actually JV'd them out. And so what's going to happen is they're going to be able to maintain a lot of capital discipline, not having to raise too much money, not having to dilute. And then their partners are going to be drilling some of these other projects, and anything they find is going to reflect on Sky Harbor themselves. Now, to put that into perspective, with the current option agreements that they have, there are 7 total. They are due to receive $80 million worth of value, whether that is shares, actual cash, or money poured into the ground to advance their JV projects. I don't see companies of $100 million market cap have that much value coming in the next couple of years just with what they have so far. Now we're talking about 7 option agreements. In total, there is like 25 different, there are like 25 different projects. And so I think there's more coming. Like, is it too bold for me to say that I think there's more coming with the market that we're currently seeing in uranium? I don't think so. Another thing is that you have to think of what happens next. So here is a hunch that I have with what happens next. One is that I think that the other 15 plus projects that they have that they own in the Athabasca Basin will be optioned out. Maybe not all of them, but I think you're going to get a lot of news regarding that. That's super positive. They don't have to spend all that money to advance them, and they get to share in the upside without having to spend what we know to be quite a bit of money in the Athabasca Basin, although these guys are getting actually a really good deal on a per meter basis of, I think, something like $300. Don't ask me how they did it. have not seen anybody get this cheap of a meterage in the basin. But again, these guys are not newcomers, so they can probably get better deals. Another thing is that the Newsflow I expect to be probably one of the most active in the space, because not that many companies have that many partners with projects being drilled. So you're going to have Newsflow of actual projects being drilled and then projects getting JV'd, which is going to bring a lot of value into the company as well. I do fully expect really nice, sexy headlines for high-grade uranium intercepts from Russell and Moore to come this year. And another thing that a lot of people need to put together is when a company is building value, there are a few different ways that it can deliver shareholder value. So here are a couple of things that you may not have noticed about Sky Harbor that they are actually probably going to profit a lot from. One is their obvious tie with Denison. If you want to build a company and sell it, you want to make sure you know who your seller is going to be before you get to the stage where you want to be sellable. And I think the obvious buyer of this company could or should be Denison Mines. If not, look at who they're JVing with. You're going to see all the who's who of uranium coming in to JV with them. You have Rio Tinto, you have, companies with deep pockets, majors, everybody who's anybody in the business that wants to drill a project that, if they don't have too much exposure to the east side of the basin, which is, by the way, where the mines are located, then they can look into Sky Harbor, but also on the west side of the basin where they have a bunch of projects as well. The other thing, and the reason why I think that this could be, an easy five-bagger, is that 4 of these projects used to belong to a company called JNR Resources, which was run back then by the geological team that is now within Sky Harbor. And the portfolio actually, as a company, got to be worth as high as $350 million way back in 06, 07. So $350 million back then is today $500 million. You see where I'm going with this, right? Right now, they're trading at just around 100 million market cap. And you can really look at what has been done since the projects came out of JNR and have become Sky Harbor as a company. They have amassed, there is no better word for this, they have amassed a lot of projects. And I think they're going to attract a lot of attention this year, as opposed to all the other years that they have, been building the business, but the market wasn't ready for it. And the market didn't give them enough credit for what they were holding. And I believe that now, with the millions that they have and the millions that are being poured into the ground, you'd better watch out. Sky Harbor is going to be one to watch. Not financial advice. Like I said, I am uber biased, but put it on your watch list. See what these guys are able to do. And I hope to be bringing you some news of what's going on with some of their flagship and other projects as well. So if you think that this is, something worth looking at, you might also consider when it's time to exit the uranium space. I don't think it's anytime soon. I don't imagine I'll be exiting 2024 and possibly not 2025 either. But when it comes to it, what are you going to be looking at? What are the pointers and everything like that? I sat down with a good friend of mine and we figured out that there are a few pointers that you should consider before you decide to exit a uranium trade. And you can follow this video right here.